right, welcome back to the hearing. We're up to day 6 today. Just in terms of the preliminary matters, in terms of cross-examination, we've received the written requests from Ms. Haldon, which the committee will ask both of the witnesses. And we've also received a request from the proponent to ask Dr. Pardo questions for about 30 minutes. So they're the only requests we've received. In relation to Dr. Pardo's appearance today, I just run through the chronology just so we're square with what's happened. So Ms. Peace indicated that she was unable to attend today and requested that the committee call her witness. In response to that, the proponent raised some oral concerns about potential procedural issues, and then after that, the committee wrote to Ms. Peace and indicated our proposed course of action. Ms. Peace didn't raise any concerns with that. Despite all of that, the proponents written in again and said that they had some concerns. We just wanted to say that this is not intended to be a legal process, and the committee is satisfied that Ms. Peace understands the process and the implications. And I understand that Ms. Selvaraj from the office has also been in contact with her on the phone. So we're happy for the committee to introduce Dr. Pardo. We understand Ms. Peace will be listening to, whether she's listening today or she might listen to the recording later. And I understand she might be online as well at the moment. I can see a nice background. So I think that we're satisfied that she'll be able to hear that, and we can proceed today and hear from both the cultural heritage witnesses. Any comments on that?
No, and save that it was thought that we wanted to turn this into a legal process. It wasn't our intention. It was just that we wanted to ensure that the committee's work is protected procedurally from future challenge. And we could just see that, and we're appreciative to Mr. Peace for recognising the situation, but we could just see that there was potentially some difficulties, but they've been overcome.
Okay, thank you. All right, and then I think Ms. Selvaraj has also sent an email around yesterday just indicating there'd be a couple of timetable changes. We will issue an updated timetable, which will confirm all of that. But I think the main thing is to just note that Tuesday next week there'll be some slight changes there, and we're also proposing that closing submissions on Thursday the 9th of July will be held online, because we anticipate that might be fairly short. So confirm all of that afterwards. Okay, just for now to the proponent. I see Dr. Pardo is online. Thank you. Are you able to just turn your camera off for now until we, just so we can see the presentation when we get it up, and we'll call you when we're in about half an hour or so. Thank you. Okay, so from the proponent, did you have any procedural issues before we get started?
Thank you.
Okay, all right. And any of the parties that might be online, just checking if there was any other issues anyone wanted to raise before we get started. Okay. All right. Well, first up we have Ms. Odaway from called by the proponent. Who am I looking at?
Me, please.
You. Okay. Okay. Thanks, Mr. O'Farrell.
Thanks. I think, Ms. Odaway, you were here the other day. You might have seen the procedure that the committee is adopting. And so can I ask you, you prepared 2 documents. One's your witness statement and the other one is the series of slides. In both of those documents, is there anything you wanted to add, subtract or correct?
No.
And do you adopt those as a true reflection of your opinions in this matter?
Yes, I do.
Tend to those, please, Member McMillan. I think because you saw what happened the other day, could I just pass across to you to share to the screen your slides and provide a summary of your evidence to the committee, please?
So I'm doing this via the PDF rather than the PowerPoint, so as long as everyone can see that. Good afternoon, my name is Kim Rodway. I'm the Aboriginal Cultural Heritage Discipline Lead for for VMFRP. Before I get started, I just wanted to acknowledge that today we're in Naarm and the lands of the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung, but we're here to talk about the lands of the Rappa Brappa, Wemba Wemba and Yorta Yorta people whose lands we're discussing will be impacted by these works. And in particular, I'd like to acknowledge how integral their participation has been through this process of completing the Aboriginal Cultural Heritage Specialist Assessment. Today I'll be confirming the details provided in my expert witness statement and providing a response to the question posed by the panel in week 1 of the hearings related to intangible heritage values. So I thought I would start there. So my understanding is that the panel has asked if the Guttrim Benwell CHMP 16903 includes consideration of intangible heritage. Is that correct?
Yes, that was the question. Yep.
I've provided specific detail in my slide up there, but yes, intangible values have been considered within both the approved Guttrim Benwell CHMP and also the in-progress Gunbower CHMP. As it relates to the intangible heritage values, they're intrinsically related to tangible heritage. So you may note from my slide that in 2022, Yorta Yorta specifically stated that they did not wish to provide any intangible values more broadly related to the project area as it relates to Gunbower. Outside of the CHMPs specifically, North Central CMA have undertaken a values and aspirations program with the relevant traditional owners and interested parties for both Guttrim Benwell and the Gunbower project areas, which is in alignment with EDS ACH2, sorry. Did you have any further questions?
Maybe just clarify, so I think this is what you've just said, but the intangible component of the CHMP relates to the activity area. Correct. And not the broader.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. CHMP is specifically for the construction footprint.
Yeah. Okay, no problem. Thank you.
I'm going to have to move the right set of slides. So going into my summary of works undertaken to date, the specialist assessment addresses the ER scoping requirements relevant to Aboriginal cultural heritage, assessing both the construction footprint and the modelled inundation extent. The construction footprint was assessed utilising the CHMP process, which includes a desktop assessment and predictive modelling, field surveys, excavation programs, and also very detailed traditional owner and interested parties engagement, which occurred between 2020 and for Guttrim Benwell was completed in early 2026, and for Gunbower that is continuing. The MIE itself was assessed through a desktop assessment and the traditional owner and interested party consultation. I note for the specialist, they have spoken in more detail about their findings. As this is Aboriginal cultural heritage, we're talking about cultural values that are redacted in the specialist assessment, and this is an open hearing. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail here about what was found, where it's located. Sorry, 2 laptops. The Aboriginal cultural heritage impacts have undergone a process of assessment, avoidance, minimisation and reduction strategies throughout the project's development. Through the implementation of the relevant Aboriginal cultural heritage EDSs, as well as the EDSs specific to other disciplines, there will be further avoidance, minimisation and reduction strategies implemented through the approval of the CHMPs, but also through EDS ACH3 during the operation period of the project. Increasing flooding events and rehabilitating the area's ecology will have broadly beneficial effects for Aboriginal cultural heritage. Since the exhibition of the specialist assessment, I've undertaken a review of the public submissions, review of the technical memorandum, revised groundwater modelling, the VMFRP EES technical report, the preparation of my expert witness statement, and I've been involved in the submission and approval of the Guttrim Benwell CHMP and the submission and ongoing assessment of the Gunbower CHMP. The Guttrim Benwell CHMP has been approved by the relevant statutory authority, which in this instance is First Peoples State Relations, and it has since been lodged with the Victorian Aboriginal Heritage Register. The Gunbower National Park CHMP is ongoing. It was submitted for approval, but following some of the natural flooding events that have happened along the Murray, there was some shell that was identified, so we have undertaken a site inspection between R8 Heritage Advisors, myself included, North Central CMA and Yorta Yorta Nations Aboriginal Corporation, which occurred on the 18th of June. The results of this site survey are still being worked through, and they'll be included within the CHMP before it's resubmitted to Yorta Yorta Nations for evaluation. Next, I just want to go through the submissions and my responses to them. So my review of the submissions found that submissions 4, 15, 16 and 20 have raised concerns relating to my area of expertise and have been grouped within 3 main themes. The first of these themes is traditional owner and interested party consultation and engagement through the CHMPs. The engagement with RAPs and traditional owners and interested parties has been undertaken across the relevant CHMPs in accordance with the FPSR guidelines for both consultation and also with the guide to preparing a cultural heritage management plan. The engagement was predominantly facilitated by North Central CMA on behalf of VMFRP, with R8 Heritage Advisors in attendance and also presenting the material from the CHMP as relevant.
Ms. Ada, what does FPSR stand for?
First Peoples State Relations within DPC, Department of Premier and Cabinet. Love an acronym. The significant consultation program undertaken for the CHMPs included Brappa, Wemba Wemba and Yorta Yorta traditional owners, as I've listed on the screen. That's how they were self-identified as they reported into meetings and fieldwork. We had 16 on-country and in-person meetings and 42 field days undertaken for the Guttram Benwell CHMP, and 11 on-country and in-person meetings and 42 field days undertaken for the Gunbower CHMP to date. Consultation and field visits are still continuing for the Gunbower CHMP. More broadly, consultation with traditional owners and interested parties have been undertaken for the ER, led by North Central CMA and VMFRP. This additional consultation provided the information for the formation of EDS ACH2, connection to country, relating to the integration of Aboriginal cultural values and aspirations into both the project design and the operation of the project. And EDS ACH3, cultural heritage management operations, which requires a risk-based approach to be undertaken in advance of any watering within the MIE. Theme 2 was alternate watering options based on traditional Aboriginal wetland stewardship. Concerns regarding alternate watering options and the suggestion that traditional Aboriginal land use can inform management policy and practices was included within submission 15. The purpose of the specialist assessment was not to assess alternate watering proposals, but to assess the project. We did indeed include an earlier publication than the one that was included in submission 15, Pardo and Hutton 2020, but engagement with traditional owners and interested parties highlighted culturally significant locations that were included within both the ER and the relevant CHMP. However, no Aboriginal ponds or settlements were shared with the project during the consultation. Further evidence has been provided by Dr. Pardo and will be addressed at the end of this presentation. The third theme was the adequacy of the CHMP, with concerns regarding the adequacy of the CHMP process for appropriately identifying and managing Aboriginal cultural heritage noted. My first response to this is the question of adequacy is for the relevant approval authorities, the heritage advisors undertaking the work, but the CHMPs have been prepared in accordance with the FPSR guidelines, the Aboriginal Heritage Act and the Aboriginal Heritage Regulations. More specifically, there were queries around Broken Axle Creek, Black Charlie Lagoon, and potential damage to a shell midden. In relation to Broken Axle Creek and Black Charlie Lagoon, these potential hotspots were identified in the submission, which may indicate settlements. Through the CHMP process and the ER, no tangible values, intangible values, or oral history relating to Aboriginal ponds or settlements were shared during the project. In relation to the potential damage to the potential shallow midden. This is located west of the Brereton pump site, outside of the construction footprint. It is not currently registered on the Victorian Aboriginal Heritage Register, but it was already identified to the project, and we have been in the process of having the site visit on the 18th of June and going through the recording process and update to the CHMP with your donations. So I've also reviewed the expert evidence statement of Dr. Colin Pardo. It does not affect my opinion I received the work carried out for the ER and the CHMPs, or the appropriateness of the proposed EMF and the EDS relevant to Aboriginal cultural heritage. He raised 4 issues that relate to my area of expertise. One which we've already touched on a little bit here, which is the issue of settlements and Aboriginal places. So as I mentioned previously, assessment of Aboriginal places were completed as required under the Aboriginal Heritage Act. And whilst the earlier article by Pardo and Hutton was discussed within the specialist report, no records of settlements or Aboriginal ponds are currently listed on the Victorian Aboriginal Heritage Register within our area of investigation. No settlements or Aboriginal ponds were described by the RAPs and traditional owners or interested parties during consultation and engagement during the project. Dr. Pardo argues that settlements are not considered in the way that Aboriginal places would be registered in commercial archaeology. However, it's not considering how we do register Aboriginal places for commercial archaeology under the requirements of the Aboriginal Heritage Act. We are not limited to a point or a polygon-based approach, and we do look at broader values. And for these projects, we have registered cultural places rather than specific cultural items. The second issue that was raised is burials, with an issue raised around expectations of burials set out in the specialist assessment executive summary is incorrect. My response to that is that the relationships between mounds and burials, which we actually call Aboriginal ancestral remains, are discussed in more detail throughout the specialist assessment outside of the executive summary. Another point was raised around predictive mapping, the issue being raised that the lack of LiDAR use and minimal use of likelihood indicators in predictive modelling in the project following a review of some of the predictive models in the map. And my response to that is that LiDAR was actually a key criteria included in our multi-criteria analysis used for the predictive modelling within the specialist assessment. The MCA used a number of data sources and accounted, where possible, for errors in existing Aboriginal place registrations. The last of the matters that I can address was around the depths of expected archaeological finds and a concern with a lack of consideration for possible deep archaeological deposits up to 2 metres in depth. My response to this is that excavation completed under the relevant CHMPs for the project was undertaken in line with the FPSR standards and methods, and conclusions discussed and agreed to with the relevant RAPs and or traditional owners and interested parties throughout the CHMP process.
Just in terms of the FPSR standards, can I ask you on the name of the document?
It's the guide to preparing a cultural heritage management plan.
Yeah, well, you jumped ahead of me. I was going to ask you, is that one of them? And there's another document that I've seen called Standards for Recording Victorian Aboriginal Heritage Places and Objects 2008.
Correct.
Is that another document that you put under the banner of
Yes.
FPSR standards?
Yes, that is correct. There are different versions of them, and as of yesterday, there is also brand new guidelines that came out and became active on the 1st of July. But every document that was current prior to the 30th of June has been used as part of this CHMP assessment.
Okay. Well, unless
Can you just repeat the name of the second document? It was the Guide to Recording.
Standards for Recording Victorian Aboriginal Heritage Places and Objects.
Thanks.
Well, thanks, Ms. Ottaway. Unless there's anything else you wanted to bring to the attention of the committee, that's the evidence in chief.
Thanks. 2 questions of clarification, and I'll check with the other members in a second, but You mentioned a couple of times in your presentation just shared with the project. Does that mean the project team?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, no, that's fine.
Sorry, yeah.
No, I'm just checking. That's kind of, and then.
It was described as well. They didn't want to share with the project.
Yeah.
Yes,
okay,
not just individuals, but the project in general.
Team. Yeah, okay, all right. And then the EDS, have you reviewed the day one version of that? Just checking if there was any changes.
There was no changes.
To your area. Okay. All right. I'll just check.
No, that's all clear.
We don't have any questions. Thank you.
The only other thing on that front was there was that submitter that put some.
Oh, I do have other
Questions.
questions. Sorry, I actually do. You're right in front of me and I didn't look. Okay, sorry, Ms. Odaway. So I just, as indicated in preliminary matters, we've received a list of questions from Ms. Walden, who has presented her submission already. I've just prefaced these questions. I understand in your statement there was a couple of things that may be outside your area of expertise, but I'll just go through the questions and you just.
I should say, Member McMillan, we've provided those questions to Ms. Ottaway,
Okay.
so.
I'll just read them out so anyone listening online can hear, and if Miss Walden's online, she can also. So the first question was, sorry, I just need to zoom in a little bit. So she was looking for further information on these matters generally. And the first question was, could you demonstrate the Aboriginal governance model for the project, including how Aboriginal people participated in the design and development of that governance framework?
The governance framework is outside the scope of my expertise.
Second question was, could you please outline the project's change management processes and explain how Aboriginal governance and decision-making are incorporated through those processes?
That's outside my area of expertise.
Third one, can you identify whether there are any dedicated work packages or procurement opportunities allocated specifically for Aboriginal businesses and service providers?
That's also outside of my area of expertise in the project.
And the final question was, could you advise if there was budget allocated to Aboriginal work packages, procurement, employment and participation outcomes?
That is also outside of my area of expertise on the project.
Okay. All right, thanks for the reminder to ask the questions.
Probably me, Member McMillan, but did you ask question 3? Just not sure whether you want to please outline the project's change management processes.
I think I did,
Sorry.
yeah, I've written
Sorry.
down, yeah. Okay. All right, okay, thanks for the reminder about those questions, and I think that was all. So did you have any
No,
re-examination?
nothing arises. Could Ms. Ottaway be excused?
Yes, no problem. All right, thank you. Right. Okay, now we're ready to hear from Dr. Pardo. So I think that Dr. Pardo, you're online. We'll just get you to turn your camera on and check that your microphone's working.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Just check
Okay.
if the volume.
Is that all good? I can see you and I can
Okay.
hear you.
All right, no, that should be fine. What, just to explain the process from here, because it's just a slightly unusual situation, I'll introduce you and just ask a couple of questions before we get started. And then Mr. O'Farrell or Mr. Forrester will have about 30 minutes of questions based on your statement. And then the committee will ask questions at the end of that process. And as well as some of the questions that have been, I understand, a copy provided to you from Ms. Walden as well. The first thing I just wanted to check before we did the introductions was that we noticed that you filed a document yesterday We haven't tabled that document with all of the other documents, but we're just checking if that was new information or whether that was intended to be your presentation for today.
Hello, panel. Do I address you as panel or?
Oh, you
members
could
of the
just
panel?
call me just our name. So member McMillan, member Elliott, or member Battesse.
Okay, thank you. I was asked to assist Di Peace with this matter, and you know, it was fairly late in the piece. I said I would do what I could. That ended up with me agreeing to be an expert witness, but in a situation which I was a bit unclear about the structure of this. But with regard to this last statement, Di asked me to write something further, and I was a bit unclear, so I just wrote kind of an extra bit. So it was more in the nature of an addendum or something more, but feel free to just leave it out.
I think we're just trying to understand if it's based on the information that was in the statement that you'd already filed with us a week or so ago.
Yeah, more or less. It's an expansion thereof, but yes, it's more or less in the same. It's in the same vein.
Okay, all right. Well, maybe I'll just give a few quick. Just given you've indicated you're not familiar with the process, I guess given your appearing as an expert and we've received a copy of your statement already, there's a practice note and sort of just in terms of the obligation of an expert is to the committee
Yes.
rather than to your client. So as long as you understand that, and obviously we've got questions, we'll be asking questions, well, we may not be, but there'll be questions arising or in relation to the statement that you filed. And I understand that the proponent might have some questions, but just first of all, just get you to confirm that there's no one else in the room with you at the moment.
There's no one else in the room.
Okay.
My girlfriend is in the house. I'm at my house, as are the dogs, but no one's in the room with me.
I just meant, yeah, no one's assisting you in the presentation. That's fine.
No one's assisting me, no.
Okay, and then in terms of the statement that you filed before the hearing, not the one from yesterday, but the one before that, did you have any corrections or anything you'd like to update in there, or are you happy to adopt that statement that you filed?
I'm happy for you to take that. Yes, I'm happy for you to adopt it or to table it.
Okay, thank you.
As is.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so now from here we have, you don't have to take 30 minutes, but we have 30 minutes of time for you to run through a summary of your statement or, you know, just to give a presentation. Just, I assume you've just seen the presentation that Ms. Oldaway presented, something
Yes.
similar to that. If you wanted to run through the key points of your statement, we'll listen and then there'll be an opportunity for questions.
Thank you.
Sorry to interrupt you.
Dr. Pardo.
Dr. Pardo, there was just something I need to address the committee on. Just sorry to interrupt you. This statement from the 1st of July, not sure where that landed, but I was attracted by what Dr. Pardew said about that. He said, feel free to leave it out.
I think we might just leave it out. I think that
No
might.
one's pressing that, so if that's the case.
I think we might just leave it out because
Thank you.
we haven't looked at it. We'll just, Dr. Pardo, we'll look at the statement you filed and the presentation you make today and not worry about that extra. We'll leave that untabled. Yeah, thank you. Okay, go ahead, Dr. Pardo.
Okay, by way of preamble, look, I don't have a presentation to give you. Like I said, I was asked by Di on behalf of the concerned citizens, locals there in the community. I'm aware of these sort of projects, and I've done a lot of commercial archaeology work and latterly sort of community work, I guess you'd call it, on the New South Wales side, Kundruk Paracuta, I've done works in Gunbower, so I'm familiar with the area. I've written on the archaeology in various fashions, and it was really, I think, Di wanted me to come in, obviously in opposition to the project. I'm well aware that as an expert witness, it's not my job to talk about any of that, and yet here we are dealing with heritage, which is one small part, not to knock it down at all, but one small part of the whole assessment process. But I felt the need to talk about the archaeology more generally because, as Ms. Ottaway pointed out several times, that working within the legislative requirements of the Victorian Aboriginal Heritage Act is a very different thing from looking at the archaeology in its totality, where you look within the construction footprint, as it were, or the activity area, as it's called, and that I really just wanted to bring to everybody's attention the wider nature of the archaeological record here, its relationship to the environment, and through those, the traditional knowledge that's encapsulated in that archaeological record, which is something that certainly Barapa and Yorta peoples have been very proud and pleased to work on in our New South Wales side of work. So restricting myself to the sort of expert witness assisting to say, where would I critique this? It's less to do with examining methods within the construction footprint and more to do with the fact that you've got this wider settlement pattern that has been kind of known, but never put together in a big way. Some of it is ongoing, obviously, but things which were available and learned from particularly the Kundruk Paracuta Forest Flood Enhancement Works project, New South Wales, about 2009 to 2012, I'm going to say. A very similar project to this one, to this proposal, and of which this proposal, I think, was rejected in 2015 because they were looking across the border at the failure of that project itself, which has never operated and probably never will. But as a result of those investigations over there, we learned an awful lot about the scale of these things. We also moved on to using the heritage, partly to really look at the heritage and conserve it, but very quickly leapfrogged over that into conservation of endangered animals and plants, mainly small-bodied fish, but also migratory birds. This is a Ramsar listed area, so protection of international protection of migratory birds. Several small-bodied species of fish which are under threat. And we've had great success on the other side, being guided by the heritage, being guided by the archaeological record and the heritage in those conservation efforts, but also seeing this much more, as you see it as a landscape, I guess, as a wider entity where you see villages where the requirement for the regulatory bodies in Victoria or New South Wales is largely feature-based, let's say, like an earth mound. And you could say a cluster of earth mounds, but there's no category for saying a village or a settlement. And these exist outside of not necessarily contained within a construction activity area. They're much more widely spread. And the links between them, which I wouldn't say was intangible heritage, I would say it was completely tangible, but uninvestigated in ways. But if you considered in my first statement, my one statement, in the second map on page 4 is just a very quick map of settlements distributed throughout mainly Kundruk State Forest. And those are all linked by waterways and by levees. And there's an archaeological record throughout all these levees. Everywhere where you hit a levee, you will see archaeological record. Now, those levees and those settlements form a network of things that if you stood on the ground in one place, you might not see a village site, you might not see its associated ponds, earth mounds, you might not see a levee, but you would be within that network. And it's that sort of scale that I was alluding to that was an important factor in considering projects such as this, where the equivalent project on the New South Wales side was, we're going to put a massive amount of water in. It's going to water the trees. It's going to be great. Now, we didn't have any of this information at that point because the assessment that was done was on a very tiny construction footprint. And so the implications for that surrounding archaeology and the inundation area were not considered at all. Fast forward to now, these sort of things I look at and you think, well, Gunbower has the same sort of features. They have these concentrations or clusters of earth mounds that are settlements. They've got levees that link them all. They're distributed in a slightly different way from the Kundruk and Paracuda ones, but as a totality of a floodplain, they're all part and parcel of settlement areas. And I guess one of the concerns, apart from the arithmetic of dumping water in for cultural water and all that sort of stuff, is the arithmetic of when that water will be available and how it should be done. As I think one of the things was to mimic the natural system, which is what the team in New South Wales has been doing with places like Pollock Swamp and Little Forest. Now, I don't want to ramble over all this. I know I should stick to the archaeology, but because the archaeology has been part and parcel of the environment and it's been used by traditional owners there as part of their land and water stewardship aspirations, I felt it was relevant to put this stuff through an expert witness situation. I realize that none of this is I can't really be talking about the overall project. I really have to be constrained to the archaeology. So I think, apart from what I've said in here, the only other thing I can feel is that these inundation areas, I was specifically asked by a couple of colleagues. I haven't looked at the vast totality of the reporting for this, and I never will. It's too much for one person. But when things go into operation, sort of Aboriginal aspirations for land and water stewardship, for actual jobs and for doing, and I've watched how detailed it's been to mimic natural conditions to put water into just one swamp. Now we've seen terrific results from that, but I look at this notion, and this is another of these that mimics, to my mind, the Kundrik-Paracuda forest flood enhancement works, where it was going to dump in a very large amount of water and the trees were all going to be happy and the floodplain was going to be happy. And our argument in our 2020 paper publication was that when you needed that amount of environmental flow in the dry years, you'd never have it. And when you had the water, you were in a wet period and you didn't need the environmental allocations. And that they could never manage that level of sort of hands-off conservation efforts of putting water in, just dumping it in. It has to be dealt with on a really a day-to-day manner to get these watering effects and the benefits for the conservation efforts. And so I was looking at this and I was thinking, okay, our archaeological efforts, which have guided the conservation efforts, are well within where I should be as an expert witness using the archaeology. And I just had to question myself looking at the proposed inundation model itself, no archaeological assessment within that. And yet, if you look right across the river, like not 10 kilometers across the river, you've got 900 earth mounds that we subsequently documented in several settlements, several villages, 4 large villages, several smaller hamlets and such. That inundation area that hasn't had an assessment, there's been no, obviously the Aboriginal groups would, I think, love to be able to do these surveys and look at what's in those forests in detail. But there's very, very little in those areas. And so I think I'll stop here because I'm probably just going on a bit too much. But that was, I think, the basis of what I wanted to talk about. Everything else is just written down.
Okay, yeah, we did, I should have said at the start, we did read your statement that you sent around prior to the hearing. So we have read that. Could I know Mr. O'Farrell was going to ask you a question, but I just wanted to clarify one of the comments you made about you hadn't looked at all of the documentation. Just trying to understand, so have you reviewed the parts of the environment report that explain the project and the, I guess, the proponent's assessment of cultural heritage aspects? Just, I know you haven't read all of it, but I'm just trying to understand which parts you.
I went through the specialist cultural heritage document F, I think it was. I looked at a very summary outline of the project proposal with a map showing activity areas, and I'm aware of the nature of these projects with regard to the New South Wales side, the Victorian side, and the MDBA. I don't want to say in the background, but the MDBA kind of behind it all, I guess.
Yes.
Look, I've been watching. I'm actually working. I'd like to be very local, but of course, you hear about things like Naya Forest. Same thing, So I'm aware of these projects going on. I've been involved in. I was involved in this actual project. You wouldn't believe, 2008. I was asked by some Victorian Department of Environment, Sustainability, Water, something back then. They wanted to have an idea of, like, what the heck about the archaeology, who should we talk to, that sort of stuff. And I did that. And that was in advance of this actual project and in advance of the other one, which was rejected. So I'm well aware that these things have a very, very long lifespan, and we're at the very pointy end of it. So there's no point me railing against it, I guess.
Or I might leave it there. I think the proponent will have some questions
Yeah, by all means.
about that last comment as well. But I'll hand over to Mr. O'Farrell. So we've got half an hour, and then at the end I'll ask the questions from Ms. Holden as well.
Okay.
Sorry, Halden. I'm getting Halden and Wanda mixed up. Halden. So is it Mr. O'Farrell?
Oh, yes, please.
Questions? Yeah, okay. Maybe if you just introduce yourself, obviously in this format, it's a bit unusual, but yeah, thanks.
Yes. How do you like to be addressed? Is it Dr. Pardew or comfortable with that?
Pardo would be fine, or Colin, or just Colin. I'm quite easy. I'm retired, so I can take it as it comes.
My name is Peter O'Farrell, and I'm a barrister, and I'm acting for the project proponent. So I had some questions for you.
Thank you.
And one of them was, when you got instructions, did you get given a copy of the Planning Panels Victoria Practice Note 01 on expert evidence, or were you able to find that separately?
I was directed to it, and I'm pretty certain that the document you're talking about was the one that I read. I was directed to it online, and I did read it.
Okay, and Ms. Peace directed you to that, did she?
Indirectly, yes. I think it came via the Victorian office. Amy, I'm going to say.
Yep, all right.
Yeah.
Now, and I take it you read the practice note before
Yes.
you finished your evidence?
Yes.
Now, in the practice note, one of the requirements is that you are to include reference to reports, documents, and other material that you have been instructed to consider in preparing your statement. Now, in the statement, there's attached to it a curriculum vitae, which has a series of publications and things. And in the statement itself, it's got a section that refers to references. You don't disclose any documents that you are provided with when you're given your instructions, but can I assume that on page 7 of your witness statement, under the heading references, that's the list of documents that you have referenced in preparing your evidence?
Okay. Those are references that I brought to bear for this. And if I just back up a little bit, I wasn't given instruction because although I understand that we're playing court rules, Di was not sure, not being a lawyer herself, so she was not in a position to give me instruction. She is a concerned citizen, let's say, as are several others, some of them listening here. And she asked me for help. And so it was not as formal as, I'm going to say, the proponent side, which has several government departments, over a meter of reportage, people to pull things together and do research. So I will ask the panel, if there's anything you don't like about my statement, please feel free to knock it out. But I did this in kind of the best spirit of providing the best evidence I could in a limited framework to the panel that might not be available or of consideration otherwise. Does that answer your question?
I'll ask you a different question.
Okay.
Can I take it then that out of what you've just said, you were not given instructions by Ms. Peace?
She asked for assistance, and she said she wanted me to discuss the archaeological understandings that I have of the area with regard to that opposition to this project, I guess we're going to say.
Well, we're taking a note of the sentence that you just said. Is that recorded anywhere from Ms. Peace by way of an instruction to you, or is that just a sentence that you, I'm not trying to be critical, but a sentence that you just made up so as to answer my previous question? I'm trying to work out, were you given instructions by Ms. Peace or not?
Okay, members of the panel, I think this goes back to my point that I understand that this is court rules because you've got Casey
Yeah,
acting for discussing or fronting for the proponent. I'm not prevaricating to the panel. What I'm trying to get across is that as a concerned citizen, she asked me for help. She didn't have a formal system of saying, I'm instructing you to do certain things. She didn't instruct me in any formal fashion. What she asked me for was assistance by way of archaeological understandings of the area. And I hope, Mr. O'Farrell, that answers your question.
maybe can I just, sorry to interrupt, but I think if we could just understand maybe if you received written instructions, or was it just oral instructions or a phone call from
It was
Ms. Peace?
Yes, it was telephone. Yes.
Okay, so there's no
There's no
record
written,
of
there's
that
no
as
written
such.
record.
Is
No.
that I think the question that
Oh, so it was written record. Sorry, there was no written record. No, it was a phone call.
does that you keep going? Yep.
Okay, keep going.
Now, you said in chief that Di wanted me to come in, obviously in opposition to the project. Did that form your instruction? That when Di called you on this telephone call, the tone of it was, Dr. Pardo, I want you to come in opposition of the project. Is that how you understood your instruction?
Good point.
I'm not making a point, sir. I'm just asking you a question.
I'm
You
considering
understand the
here.
question, you're going to ask it again.
I would say that her view was that she was in opposition to the project and that she was concerned. And I said, well, here's my understanding of, I'll present my understanding of the archaeology. And insofar as it assists the panel with their views on the pros and cons, I think I've raised several cons about this. So take that. Does that answer your question, panel?
Do you remember what the question was, Dr. Pardo, that I asked you?
No, go ahead and answer. Ask it again.
You don't remember the question? Is that what you're saying?
I think just ask it again. Yeah.
No, I'm not saying that. I would like you to ask it again.
The question I asked you, Doctor.
Please continue.
I've asked you that same question twice. I'm going to ask it a third time. Do you remember the question that I asked you?
Yes.
What was it?
It was about whether I'd been instructed in opposition, or whether I was in opposition to this, or whether she, Di, had asked me to provide evidence in opposition, or words to that effect.
And what's your answer to that question?
Oh gosh. No, I think I was more dispassionate than that. I think my view was that the expert witness direction would be to assist the panel. And if I provided relevant information about the archaeological record and relevant extensions of that I would be assisting the panel if there were negativities about that.
So can I understand this clearly then, that Ms. Peace did not give you any written instructions, nor did she provide you with any documents recording your instructions or the documents that you're instructed to review?
Sorry, correct. There was no written documents.
At page 7 of your statement, you have a heading that says statement as required.
Yes.
and you go on and there's a paragraph that's got about 6 lines to it.
Yes.
And in the first line, I'll come back to the heading, but in the first line it says that I've been able, in the time I'm willing to allot to this matter.
Yes.
You said during your evidence-in-chief that you came into this late in the piece. When were you first contacted by Miss Peace?
Could I say a couple of weeks ago? 3 weeks ago, maybe?
What date?
I couldn't tell you.
Why can't you tell me? You don't remember, or?
Sorry,
No,
panel.
sure.
These are details that I would have to go away and go and look through my phone or something like that. I didn't realize that you wanted this level of detail, panel. I apologize.
So you're saying about 3 weeks ago?
Something like, yeah.
Less or more? When you say something like?
To the panel, look, I'd like to be more specific, and if you would like me to go and check, I will go and check.
No, I
But
think, yeah, no.
The case wasn't it, Dr. Pardo, that you didn't have enough time to prepare. That's right, isn't it?
I prepared what I prepared for the panel, and I don't think it's a matter of how much. I mean, one could go on more, less. To the panel, you've heard the timeline that you've heard that I had in discussion with Di. I then prepared something, and it was for a deadline for this panel, and I put that together and presented it to you, and that's what I've done. So it's
You were in
to
a
me, it's
hurry.
not a question. To me, it's not a question of any of that. Sorry, please go ahead.
Half an hour, I think we understand.
Yeah,
what
where you're going.
saying. Yeah.
I'm going to need more than the 30 minutes because I'm having difficulty having Dr. Pardo answer my questions. It'll go a lot quicker if Dr. Pardo answers my questions. But
If we could just,
I
guess this is not,
putting my hand up.
yeah, if we could stick to the questions that are sort of going to assist us a little bit more, then even if we need to take 45 minutes or whatever it is, we just want to kind of stick to our knitting.
Every question I ask, I seek to assist the committee because this is an exercise where you get to assess the witness, what work they've done in coming to this. And one of the things that I'm pursuing here with you is the amount of time. And I think you've said that you understand the point that I'm making there, so I'll move on to the next one.
Thank you.
My next question, Dr. Pardo, is are you charging a fee to give evidence?
No.
Now, I want to go back to the heading that says statement as required. Now, the words as required is the thing that I'm curious about. Is that a reference to the required statement in the practice note?
Yes.
Now, do you have a copy of the practice note there with you?
No.
Do you realise that you haven't made the statement that you've been directed to make by the committee? You've changed it.
I have made a statement as required. I think you'll find that it didn't say quote that statement. It was to make a statement as required. I've altered it to fit the situation.
So you read the practice note. I think you said that. And as you read it, sorry, I should ask, have you ever seen the directions that this committee made to the witnesses?
Is that different from the other one?
Yes.
Probably not. No, I wouldn't have. No.
Well, the committee directed you to make a declaration that's recorded in the practice note. I take it you're not aware of that.
If it's not in that practice note, then no, I wouldn't be.
I I'm talking about a separate declaration, so I think you've answered that question.
Sure.
Do you
So
understand that the declaration that's in the practice note is what is different to the declaration that you say you've made? You've changed it.
I wrote one that was appropriate to the situation. I didn't realize that it had to be a cut and paste job. It was a statement was required, but it needs to take account of the situation. If that makes sense, panel?
All right, so if you assume that you were directed to make the declaration that's in the practice note, do you agree that you haven't made the required declaration to the committee?
Look, Mr. O'Farrell, okay, I'll work on this one. My understanding, members of the panel, I read the practice direction. I saw that there was this, there was a statement required. And my understanding was that you would address the points in the statement and that you would alter that as suited. Like, for argument's sake, if I had used intelligence, then I would have said I've used artificial intelligence. And I didn't realize that I was meant to copy and paste that verbatim. And the reason I changed it was because that my view was that my situation would be explicated by what I'd written rather than copying and pasting, if that helps. If that knocks me out of, if that is inadequate to be an expert witness, then that's over to you, panel, I guess.
Well, thanks, Doctor. So I think now that you understand the situation, do you agree that your heading that says the statement as required, you have not made the required declaration to this committee?
If we're going to split hairs, Mr. O'Farrell, I have made a statement as required, and I've put in what I think would assist the panel, not a cut and paste, which might not be appropriate to my situation. So I feel that I have made a statement as required, and I have presented the information that was required suitable to my situation.
I've asked you the question twice now, Doctor. I'm going to ask you a third time.
Mm-hmm.
You're not familiar with the declaration, the direction that you were made that was given to witnesses to make the declaration that is in the practice note. You haven't made that declaration to this committee. Do you agree with that?
I'm going to split hairs again, members of the panel, and I think if you asked me to quote that, I would have said, well, there are elements that are not relevant to me. If you make a statement as required, that I'm making a statement as required, modified for my situation, that's a very different thing to asking me to quote that declaration. And they're two different things, and that's a hair that I'm happy to split. And I stand by this declaration. If it's not sufficient for your purposes, panel, then do with the document as you wish.
Try it a fourth time, Doctor.
I think,
Is it correct that you haven't made the declaration to this committee that is in the practice note?
I think we understand the answer, and I think we understand what Dr. Pardo's saying, so I don't think we'll need to ask it again.
Thank you, panel.
Can I ask the committee to make a particular note that was the fourth time I had to try and I still haven't got an answer from this witness? That's not the first time.
Yes, I understand.
Next, Doctor, is that
Sorry, I've lost you.
it's okay. I've realised that I've already covered the next subject matter, so I'm just going forward in my notes.
Oh, okay.
At page 6, you say that Di Peace asked you to provide some information regarding archaeology of Gun Barrel Island. I was happy to do so. And also on page 1, you have a heading that says statement. I've been asked by Dr. Peace by Die Peace to provide such information as might be useful in the matter of the proposed gun barrel project. Is it correct that you understood your instructions to provide information in relation to the proposed gun barrel project? That is, you weren't asked to address Guthrum and Benwell project in your instructions.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Okay. No, I don't think she, no. Di was talking about Gunbower.
Okay. So coming back to your reference in the documents list, and I think the question we had from our chair earlier might assist with this, but there's a heading on page 4 that says burials. Do you see that there in your witness statement?
I do.
And then the expectation of burials set out in the executive summary. You don't disclose which report it is, but am I right that it's from the Specialist Assessment F, Aboriginal Cultural Heritage, the executive summary in that specialist assessment that you're talking about?
Yes.
And then later in the report, so on page 5 now, there's a heading that says depth of expected archaeological finds. You see that?
I do.
The report mentions. Are you referring there to the same report? So Specialist Assessment F, Aboriginal Cultural Heritage?
Correct.
In answer to our chair, you identified some documents that you identified the documents that you've looked at. And one of them that you did not list was attachment 3 to the environment report, the legislation and policy section.
Cool.
That's correct. You didn't review that before you prepared your evidence?
I doubt it. No, I don't think so. No. Could you repeat the title of that?
Attachment 3 to the environment report. It's called legislation and policy.
No, I did not.
Okay. I'm just going to ask Mr. Forrester, who's the other barrister that's appearing with me in this matter, to show you attachment 3 and take you to PDF page 8. Now, I'll just give you a moment just to familiarise yourself with that text on the screen, starting with the following. If you read the bullet points and then the following paragraph to yourself, and then I'll ask you a question.
Okay, go ahead.
Now, are you familiar with a document called Guide to Preparing a Cultural Heritage Management Plan, First Peoples State Relations?
Not the 2024 version, no.
But any version of it?
A previous version I was familiar with, yes.
And also a document called Standards for Recording Victorian Aboriginal Heritage Places and Objects, 2008.
Yes.
All right. Now, from what I can tell from the database, you prepared a CHMP in 2008 for the Wimmera Mallee Pipeline Project. Does that sound right to you?
That does indeed.
And is it the case that you're not the author of a CHMP since then?
Correct.
And I think also before you advised the committee that you've previously been involved in this project. And I think you mentioned back in 2008, was it?
I think, yeah.
What was your role as an advisor?
I don't think I had a role. The Department of, I'm going to call it Environment and Sustainability. I got a phone call and they asked me for some assistance for understanding the kind of length and breadth of the archaeology. but also who they might consult with, those sort of matters. It was not a CHMP. It was not an archaeological investigation. It was provide information.
And did you accept that role as part of your commercial operations?
Did I accept the role of sorry, I couldn't hear that.
As part of your practice?
Yes, I did. I wrote the report. I went and I spent a bit of time there on Gunbower, working with through Yorta and some Barapa representatives, and wrote a report for that department. And that was last I heard of it.
Annexed to your witness statement is a section, curriculum vitae, which has got roughly 15 pages of papers, reports and presentations that you've done. Is that report listed in that curriculum vitae? And if so, which one is it?
Oh gosh. Yeah, it should be. If you look under unpublished reports or something, it'll be called Gunbower something.
Just noting we have 2 CVs. We have you're looking at the February version.
One's a resume, just a short thing.
You understand the answer? That's okay. Thank you.
Is that all right? Yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry,
Okay.
could you just give me the answer? Repeat the answer.
The bottom of page 12. Now, just returning to the First Peoples State Relations Guidelines, if I can put it under that banner. So documents like the Guide to Preparing a Cultural Heritage Management Plan and Standards for Recording Victorian Aboriginal Heritage Places and Objects.
That's not me. Is it?
Wait a moment, Doctor, we'll resolve that shortly. Ms. Ottaway's evidence is that the excavations for the project were undertaken in line with the First Peoples State Relations Standards and Methods. I take it from what you've said earlier that you don't disagree with that and you've got no basis to disagree with that.
Two different things. You're talking about two different things. One is standards as set out under the legislation. And my comment had to do with the geomorphology giving rise to the expectation of where the archaeology would be. And that is not contained completely within the guidelines.
Well, I'll stick with the legislative framework then. Ms. Ottaway's evidence is that the excavations for the project were undertaken in line with the First Peoples State Relations Standards and Methods. Do you agree?
Yes. To the panel, yes, this is correct. And this was my point that there's legislated requirements, obviously, which Mr. O'Farrell has been showing you, and I'm sure you're familiar with. And those are set out, but those are not the totality, because if you said, well, the archaeology can be of a certain depth in a certain landform, then those requirements are meant to cover the whole state, and they're meant to cover these sort of works. But
Not to cut you off, Doctor, but I think you've answered the question. I think it was yes, right?
yeah,
Ms. Ottaway's evidence is that the conclusions in relation to the excavations were discussed with and agreed with the relevant RAPs, traditional owners and interested parties. Now, I trust that you would firstly support such consultation as being appropriate.
I was not party to that, so I couldn't say anything about appropriateness or otherwise.
All right, well, you answered my next question, that because you weren't involved in it, you're just not in a position to dispute Ms. Ottaway's evidence. You agree with that?
Which bit of evidence? Because I believe I did. have some differing views. So I think I think you're overgeneralizing there.
Ask me a question, I'm going to answer it, to clarify the question. What evidence for Miss Ottaway? This evidence, that the conclusions in relation to the excavations were discussed with and agreed with the relevant RAPs, traditional owners and interested parties.
Yeah.
Because you weren't involved in any of that process, you have no basis to dispute Miss Ottaway's evidence. That's right, isn't it?
No, sorry, panel, that's a conflation there. What I was saying, or sorry, it must be my mistake. I'm sorry to the panel. I was making the point that
suggesting otherwise.
Sorry, please go ahead.
Said otherwise, Doctor. Just asking to agree with what I've put to you.
To the panel, I can't agree with that because it's a conflation. Sorry for the confusion. What I was saying was that I was making the point that there is a point of disagreement about depth of archaeological findings. I didn't have anything to say about the consultation over that specific point. If that clarifies the question for you.
I think the second part of his answer answers your question.
Okay.
I think that's enough. Yeah.
Thank you.
Now, then on page 6 of your written statement, you have a heading that says, a final word on transparency and hiding things in plain sight. And
yes,
speak about when you're asked to do things and saying you are happy to do so, etc. And then you make reference to a document that it's 553 pages. That is the page length of Specialist Assessment F. So can I assume that that's what you're referring to as the 753 page document?
753 page, yes.
And you were able to download that on your computer?
I was.
And then says, no one is paying individuals or recognised bodies to read, digest or comment on these documents. Now, can we take it from that you haven't read Specialist Assessment F, Aboriginal Cultural Heritage, aside from you made reference to part of the executive summary and a map? That's right, isn't it? You haven't actually read the entirety of Specialist Assessment F.
To the panel, I have not read the 753 pages. I read the executive summary. I went and looked at various of the maps. I looked at the predictive mapping section. I looked at a section on burials. I looked at the references and probably cast my eye over something else, I can't think, but I looked at those areas. I did not read those sections necessarily in their totality. And I think that's all I need to say.
Is it the case that you didn't read any of the appendices?
Oh gosh, no, I can't remember. What were the appendices? Sorry, panel. Sorry, I don't have it in front of me because it's too big. What were the appendices? Were there maps in the appendices?
I think, yeah.
I think there were.
I think we'll take the summary of what you reviewed as what you've looked at.
Yeah, I think there were some maps in the appendices I might have looked at, but you know.
Now, is the reason that you haven't read the entirety of the Special Assessment F, the reason that you've recited under the heading a final word on transparency and hiding things in plain sight, that is because you weren't being paid to read, digest and comment on that document?
Wasn't a question of payment. It was more a question to the panel. I went looking through it as one would as a working document to see what I should pay attention to and what I should, the points, various relevant points that I should pull out and then investigate that document with a mind to the points that I've made. So no, I didn't do it because of payment, I'm going to say. I think this was a matter of looking at it at that request. And
Was it because you didn't have enough time?
no, I don't think to the panel, I'm sorry about this. I don't feel that I was under some contractual obligation to do this or it was a matter of I was going to investigate what I should bring to this and to your attention, particular matters that I might investigate. I certainly didn't want to get investigate what we might call minutiae, small details of the thing. It was more the things that are around this, as I tried to explain about the settlements being larger than the activity area, that the activity areas are set into an existing archaeological and cultural landscape. In that same vein, I saw no need for me to go through and read end to end a 753-page document, that much of which is not relevant to the things that I was going to be writing this statement about. If that assists you.
What about this, Dr. Pardue? Would you agree that this section, a final word on transparency and hiding things in plain sight, and the language that's used, in particular the last 3 lines, is not the language used by an independent expert witness? It's someone that is partisan, and it's someone who is trying to criticise the depth of assessment that's taking place.
To the panel.
Just assume you don't have to say that.
I'm sorry, please go ahead. Please
Every time you answer a question.
Should I go ahead now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Look, this might sound, this statement might sound confrontational. It might sound, like you might take it badly. I don't know. But this is not necessarily partisan. This is an observation on an assessment process. And it's something that I have observed over the years. And I stand by it. And I don't think it's oppositional in that sense. I think it's something that should be taken into consideration by the panel. I think it's something that should be taken into consideration by the whole of civil bureaucracies. And I don't think it should be taken as anything other than an observation, really.
Can I go back to page 4 under the heading burials? There you refer to the executive summary, and we've established that that's a reference to the executive summary in specialist assessment F.
Yeah, there was very little to the panel. Sorry, I interrupted you. Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Appendix D to that document is the Aboriginal Cultural Heritage Inundation Areas Assessment. Am I right that you did not read that document either?
Oh, the inundation areas. Sorry, may I back up? Is this, I'm now confused. You were talking about burials and now we're talking about inundation areas. Is this the same question?
You just
A
mentioned
different question. I'm going to ask you, just forget about.
I'm confused.
Appendix D is
What
called
burials?
Aboriginal Cultural Heritage Inundation Areas Assessment. I take it that you have not read that document.
This is the
right?
appendix. Sorry, for clarification to the panel, is this the appendix within document F?
Yes?
Yeah, I did look at that section, the inundation areas. I was very interested in that section. I was looking at the maps.
I'll ask whether you've read that document, Doctor.
I would have inspected various parts of the text. I wouldn't have read it end to end, but I was relying more on the maps.
Okay. Now, in the under the heading burials, you're suggesting that something in the executive summary is incorrect. Did you appreciate that that part of the executive summary that you're referring to isn't a reference to the inundation areas? That discussion takes place in Appendix D. Did you appreciate that?
Yes, to the panel. Yes, I did write this with regard to the overall archaeology, with in mind that the inundation areas were not considered in this specialist assessment, and I was less concerned with the footprint in that sense, and giving you an idea of the overall distribution that the activity areas would bump into. Does that follow?
I won't answer the question.
Yeah, I think that's not a bad answer,
Yeah.
really.
Proceeded to talk
Yeah.
about burials expected in earth mounds.
Yes.
Take it you heard Miss Ottaway's evidence that the relationship between mounds and burials, Aboriginal ancestral remains, are discussed in detail throughout the specialist assessment.
Mm-hmm.
I take it you heard that evidence. And I take it that the point you're seeking to convey to the committee in relation to the burials is that there is a known relationship between mounds and burials that you wanted to bring to the attention of the committee.
Correct.
And did you see when you went through those parts of Specialist Assessment F that relationship is described?
Well, I didn't see it in the way that I thought needed to be brought out. There was reference made to works on the Hay Plains. There was not reference to works on the Kundruk Paracuda Forest flood enhancement works with regard to the burials found there. And there was not reference made, there was reference made to the Naya Forest. But there was, because this was all taken up then in the summary, I felt it necessary to be a bit explicit in my little bit about the fact that burials would be found, what I've said there about where and how many burials might be found.
All right. Now, then on page 1 of your evidence is the heading Settlements and Aboriginal Places. Make a reference to page 169. I'm assuming that's a reference to 169 of Specialist Assessment F. Is that right?
Yes.
All right. In your material, you make reference to some previous work of yours. It was you and another author, I think it was Hutton.
Correct.
When you reviewed that part of Specialist Assessment F, did you see where that work was referenced at PDF 604? Do you recall seeing that?
Sorry, did you say PDF 604?
Yeah.
Sorry, that's I don't know. Is that you've got me there. What is there a title beyond that?
That's just a PDF reference in Specialist Assessment F.
A PDF reference.
I think it's just the page, the PDF page reference. It might not be the same as the page number. Is that what you're?
You've got it on your computer there? The document?
No. Well, I've got it somewhere on the computer, but I'm
Look, it's probably sufficient at this time of the day. You don't recall your work being referenced in your review of the specialist assessment. Is that right?
No, that's not right. No. There
Do you
was
recall?
reference to some of the publications and documents that I've been an author of or a joint author of. But there are others that aren't
Understood.
referenced.
Now, with this concept of settlements and Aboriginal ponds that's in your witness statement, it's right, isn't it, that there's no settlements on the VAHR?
There don't appear to be, no.
And no Aboriginal ponds on the VAHR?
There wouldn't be, and I don't think you should be terribly concerned about the nature of the ponds business. That's it's a recent publication, and although it's been known and I've written on it previously, it's not something that they would have picked up yet. They'll pick it up soon. They'll pick it up soon.
Chief, you described it as kind of been known about, but never really put together. It's a fair description of it. This concept of settlements and Aboriginal ponds, kind of known about, but never really put together. That's how you described it in chief. That's right, isn't it?
Where did I write that?
You said it
think in
in
your
your presentation earlier today.
Oh, did I? Yeah, okay. The panel, this is a rather interesting area. You would have read about this through, well, earlier works that I'd done, but also various others have done, and then brought into the public eye with Dark Emu. But there have been publications of Victorian archaeology and more widely that have documented settlements and villages, and then popularized in Dark Emu. And then further on from that, we do not have anything in the regulators listing of places that would fulfill those definitions. So you couldn't register a village in their system, in the ACRIS system.
It's right, isn't it? There's no settlements or Aboriginal ponds that you saw as being described by the registered Aboriginal parties or the traditional owners or interested parties during consultation or engagement. That's right, isn't it?
Sorry, panel. I've got to say I'm confused. What consultation did I have? What consultation are we talking about?
Your review of Specialist Assessment F.
I didn't consult anybody.
I know that. Just try and listen to the question, Doctor.
I did listen. Yeah. Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
In your review of Specialist Assessment F, you didn't see any settlements or Aboriginal ponds as being identified by a registered Aboriginal party or a traditional owner or an interested party during the consultation and engagement process. That's right, isn't it?
My assessment.
I'll just reframe the question. I think what Mr. O'Farrell is asking is when you looked at assessment or appendix, it's called assessment F, and there was a section in there about the consultation that was undertaken by the proponent. He's asking whether you saw anything in that report that indicated that those interested parties had identified any settlements or ponds as part of that. The consultation that the proponent was conducting rather than consultation you may have been conducting.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that. Sorry for my
No, that's okay.
confusion there.
Yeah, that's okay.
I've got to say no. I'm going to say no.
Okay, thanks.
Look, to the extent that this is relevant to the task of the committee, I better ask you, but you seem to have a broader thesis on environmental watering, but I call it your alternative concepts. take it you understand that that's not before this committee.
I think I'll leave that to the committee, to the panel to make their own views on. I'll leave that to them. It's not for me to make a decision on that. Sorry, panel, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you can work this out for yourselves.
Okay.
You said in chief that everywhere you hit a levy, you hit an archaeological record. Are you referring to levies created by Aboriginal people as compared with flood protection infrastructure?
No. No, I'm referring to what we might call natural levies. Levies raised currently with machinery may well include archaeological materials because they're going to be hitting archaeological materials when they do so. But I was referring to natural levees that exist throughout the floodplain on major and minor channels. So every major channel, every minor channel on the floodplain will have associated levees along their course.
Now, page 4 and 5 of your evidence, you have a section under the heading predictive mapping, and you say you don't understand why LiDAR was not used more in the project. You've heard Ms. Ottaway's evidence, I presume this afternoon, that LiDAR was a key criteria that was used in the multi-criteria analysis that was used for the predictive modelling within the special assessment. And our evidence is that the multi-criteria analysis used a number of data sources and accounted where possible for errors in existing Aboriginal place registrations. Can I take it on the basis that you haven't read the entirety of Specialist Assessment F and its annexures, and also that you didn't do the work in this project? You're not really in a position to dispute the evidence of Ms. Ottaway.
I love predictive models. I absolutely adore them. I did the first one in Australia and published, and I published 2 of them.
I have an answer.
Sorry, please go ahead.
If you could just respond
Answer
to
the question
about the LiDAR. Yeah.
Yeah. I was interested in that. I felt that what I'd written, I was aware that they'd used that LiDAR, but I felt that it was underused. And this is an impression gained in looking at what had been done, looking at the mapping, and looking at the form of analysis done. I'm not terribly concerned. It's like I applaud the effort of the predictive mapping. I think it's a valuable tool to be used. I did look quite closely because of my interest in it. And like I say, I do applaud it.
Thank you.
There are elements that I thought could have been improved, but that's neither here nor there. That was just a point to be made. It's irrelevant in the scheme of things, I guess.
I'll just check, Mr. O'Farrell, how many more questions do you have?
2 questions with some sub-questions, but 3 minutes.
Okay, yeah.
Doctor, you haven't listed the committee's terms of reference or letter of referral. I think it's been established previously, but my assumption is you weren't briefed with them. Does that sound right?
With the committee's terms of reference, I'm going to say no. And what was the other document?
The letter of referral this matter to this committee.
Letter of referral. I'm going to say no. No.
Assume you haven't seen all of those documents?
I don't think so. I mean, I was sent a few emails and a few ancillary bits, but sorry, the panel. As you know, I've come along. You can see how I came along to this. If I've missed these, I apologize.
That's okay.
It's not a criticism Doctor, it's about the instructions you're given. So you can only respond to instructions. So I'm not criticising. I'm just trying to establish what occurred. But so can I safely proceed on the basis you haven't seen the committee's terms of reference or its letter of referral?
I guess not. I guess not. Yeah.
And so on that basis, it's the case, isn't it, Doctor, that you don't know what the terms of reference or the referral letter require this committee to do?
I guess not.
Now, you haven't listed the environment management framework or the environmental delivery standards, and they haven't been documents that you've mentioned previously today. So again, am I safe to assume that you were not briefed with either of those documents?
To the panel, I think it's safe to assume that out of the about of a meter of documentation and reportage that this is generated, I've probably seen about 5 centimeters of it.
Is the answer yes, that's right?
Sorry, please continue.
Is the answer that you weren't briefed with them?
I think you'd have to say I wasn't briefed in the way that you're suggesting. I think this is you're using legal terminology, and I understand this is a kind of court scene,
I guess,
but I'm not being briefed. I wasn't briefed.
No, I think maybe the question we'd be interested in is just if you've seen the environmental management framework or the environmental delivery standards.
Thank you. No, I haven't seen those.
Okay.
I have not seen, I don't think, any other documentation outside of what I've mentioned previously.
Okay, thanks.
So on that basis, Doctor, you're not in a position to assist the committee in relation to the appropriateness or otherwise of the environmental management framework or environmental delivery standards as they relate to your area of expertise or at all?
I think that's for the panel to decide. And if they decide they don't want to use this statement, that's fine. I'm just doing the best I can for Di and the group there. And to assist the panel with their deliberations, it's up to them, not for me to decide or to even make a comment on.
But I'm asking you for your professional opinion. If you've seen neither document, do you agree that you are simply not in a position to assist the committee with the appropriateness or otherwise of those two documents?
Again, to the panel, I'm not prevaricating here, but I'm trying to help. I'm trying to provide some information about the archaeology, and that's down to the panel to deal with. It's not for me to say one thing or the other. It's over to you. Sorry, please go ahead. I interrupted you.
I think we understand you haven't reviewed those documents, so that's enough for us to understand. That's fine.
There you go. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. That's all the questions I have.
Thank
you. I'm sorry for trespassing on time.
No, that's okay. Dr. Pardo, and I think you've probably received these questions. I'll just check if Member Elliott has any questions before I move on.
No, I think we go to those questions.
Yeah, okay, so this is just a list of questions that have been sent through from Ms. Haldon, and I understand you've received a copy of these. I'm just going to preface the questions in the same way I did for Ms. Odaway, that I think there might be some questions here that might be beyond your expertise, but I'll just run through them. If you can't answer the questions or they're outside of your professional expertise, that's fine, but I'll just run through them all in order and read them out. So the first question was, are you aware of the Aboriginal governance model adopted for this project?
I am not, but I have been in discussion with my colleagues of Yorta Yorta Nation Aboriginal Corporation, who are kind of curious about the governance model.
Okay. I'll just keep going through the questions.
Please do. Please do.
Yeah. So in your professional opinion, does meaningful Aboriginal participation in governance improve environmental and cultural heritage protection outcomes?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And our references and the final bits of our last two publications are quite explicit on how that works so wonderfully. Please continue.
Okay. Okay, and this next category is under the subheading of traditional owner engagement. The question was, which traditional owner groups did you consult or rely on upon your during your assessment? And I think by assessment, she's referring to the preparation of your statement.
None. Although I have forwarded it to various friends in the area.
Okay, the next question is, how did you satisfy yourself that engagement represented the diversity of Aboriginal interests rather than a limited number of stakeholders?
I'm going to say that's not relevant to me.
Yeah, okay. Did you identify any unresolved concerns raised by Aboriginal participants? And if so, how were they addressed?
753 pages. A colleague in Yorta Nation was similarly bemused by that size of document. Otherwise, no.
Okay. Yeah, okay. I think it's directed at your identification, so I'll just...
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, so with regard to my statement, no, nothing.
Yeah, these are all directed at your the work you've done.
Okay.
Okay, so this is now under the heading of cultural knowledge. What Indigenous knowledge informed your assessment? Quite a broad question, so...
Okay, the Indigenous knowledge that is encapsulated and distilled within the archaeological record. The Indigenous knowledge that I can't go into detail, but over the years of working with members of these local communities and more widely, that has informed my understandings. That'll do.
Okay.
Stuff like that.
Yep. Okay. How were how was traditional ecological knowledge incorporated alongside Western scientific methods?
Yeah, the gang, we don't tend to differentiate too much, but I see where it's coming from. And again, I'd actually refer you to our publications of 2020 and 2025, alongside several of the leaflets that I wrote as a result of our efforts, that they incorporate those understandings, I think, quite nicely. But I can't say how. It's just that we pay attention to it all, and we learn from all these things, and we try to increase our understandings with all sorts of evidence, if that answers your question.
Yeah, I think it was about the project rather than other research, but that's...
Oh, this is not meaning. This is the project, right? Okay.
Yeah. Were Aboriginal knowledge holders involved in interpreting environmental data? I think you've possibly answered that question already, but...
And if it's the project, I wouldn't know. Yeah. Okay, so no, I wouldn't know with regard to the project. I would know with regard to our ongoing efforts, because some of my colleagues, Aboriginal colleagues, are involved in day-to-day collecting and collation of environmental data.
Okay. Okay, the next set of questions is in relation to adaptive management. And I think these are broad questions, but if we could just focus in on sort of the work that you've done around the statement and for this project. So does adaptive management framework exist in this project? And if so, does it include Aboriginal decision makers with authority to influence outcomes?
I would From discussions with friends and colleagues, I would say no, but I've got to say, because I haven't read all this stuff and I haven't talked with anybody who might be involved, I've got to say I can't actually guide you or help you with that one.
Okay.
We can only hope.
Okay. The next one, in your professional experience, if cultural heritage monitoring identifies unforeseen impacts on cultural values, who ultimately makes management decisions? And I think, again, try to keep that in the context of this project.
You will have when you get your CHMPs in place, you will have in the appendix unforeseen findings and unforeseen impacts, one of which will be skeletal remains, and those will be mandated. And just like Mr. O'Farrell was talking about my statement as required, they are cut and paste jobs from the regulator. So that will be all sorted within there, in my professional experience.
Okay. Now, the final set of questions I've got in brackets, I understand, that's been provided from Ms. Halden, that the preface to these questions is these may be outside your expertise. I'll ask them anyway. Are you aware of any Aboriginal procurement strategy associated with the project? If not, have you seen such a strategy adopted on another project before?
I'm not aware, and I have seen such matters before.
Okay. Did your assessment, as in your statement, consider Aboriginal employment or business participation? And if not, have you ever conducted an assessment of this kind of this kind of Aboriginal participation? I'm not sure I'm reading the second part properly.
I got it. Yes and no.
Sorry, so yes, your assessment did.
I did consider Aboriginal employment and business participation because in the should this project be approved and moves into operation after construction, that operation will involve cultural and environmental watering delivery. And I have considered that, and I've discussed it with my colleagues, and they are very forthright on this matter. And I do not know if that has been in this project.
Okay.
If that clarifies, does that clarify?
Yeah, I think it's just the part as it relates to your work. So we'll just take the first part of that answer.
Yeah, okay.
And then the final question was, can you identify any budget allocated to Aboriginal-led environmental management for the project? If not, have you ever seen a budget of this kind for Aboriginal-led environmental management?
No, I have not. And yes, I have.
Okay, thanks.
And in the latter part, that was in the Kundrik Paracuda Forest Flood Enhancement Works with a firm commitment to Aboriginal-led environmental management in the development and construction phase. And that agreement was ripped up when they handed over to operations. And there was no transfer of that to operations, and they never saw any benefit at all out of that one. Sorry, that was just a little rant out of that. That's all I have to say on those questions.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Just check if there was any re-examination arising from the Ms. Halden questions.
Well, thank you.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Dr. Pardo. So thank you for appearing online today. We're going to have, as you're probably aware, Di Peace, she'll be listening to this either today or later and use this information when she makes her submissions. And yeah, thanks for your participation in the process as well.
Thank you very much, panel. I'm always happy to help, and I hope this has been of some benefit to you over all this.
Right, thank you.
Okay, bye for now.
Thank you. Okay, I think we've come to the end of today, yes. So I just have to, is there any, so we have next, let's go to timetabling first, but next Tuesday, I think we're still going to start at 10 a.m, but it's possible that we'll have Di Peace present in the morning before the proponent does their submissions, and if we need to provide a little bit of a gap, if there's something you need to respond to, we can accommodate that as well. Was there any other matters, and just to confirm, we're not going to table the statement that came in on the 1st of July from Mr. Pardo. I think we'll just use the statement that he filed originally. Is there anything else?
No, thank you.
Okay. I'll just go online to check if there's any other administrative or procedural questions anyone had before we close for today. Okay. All right. Well, thank you. We'll close for today. We'll see you back here at 10 a.m. on Tuesday. And the proponent, I know we've already talked about it, but it's fine for you to file your main submissions on the Monday. All right. Thank you.